Hi, this is Matt once again. We're back to another video, and this is a paid request from Te69 Spartan. Thank you so much for that. For those interested in requesting any type of videos, movie reviews, re-reviews, random thoughts, streams, commentaries, tier lists, rankings, whatever the case may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal. I do have a CashApp as well. Links are down below in info box, and I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. For those who sent them, thank you. I do appreciate it. Your kindness, your patience. Thank you so much. But it could be pretty much any type of video, PayPal, Cash App. Those are the best ways to do it. Links are down below, and again, we'll get to them when I can. So thank you. So the topic for today for Te69 Spartan is the lack of new action stars. And I had to think about this for a bit because the way of films nowadays, action films in particular, are a whole new ball game compared to back then. Just because, let's face it, the people that go to theaters, the mainstream, if they go to see action, it's for a specific type. There are exceptions to the rule, but I would want to say superhero, but even those are not doing as well as they used to back in the day. When I say back in the day, I mean like 5 years ago. But all you have to do is look around at what kind of stuff you have coming out today. Let's say the past 2 or 3 years, or even this year. What are the big action films of this year? Which really further explains why there's, quote, a lack of new action stars. Captain America: Brave New World. I don't think it was that good of a movie at all. It was reshot and additional photography over and over and over and over and over again. It came out, took a big fucking dump in the ditch, and there you go. Shitty fucking film, made little to no sense. No one gave a fuck. Thunderbolts. I know that apparently there's an audience for this because it has a 7.1 and IMDb, which I absolutely disagree with. Saw the film, thought it was nothing. I mean, they try to fight each other. They climb up a fucking thing for like 10 minutes. They get into a car chase that seems like a lame take on Terminator 2, which is like the only scene that Bucky has to do anything in the movie. There's a scene where they get their ass kicked by the guy who's now a villain. And then at the end of the film, the guy kind of fights himself and they'll hug it out. With the power of HUD, it will compel you. And they won by hugging. So take that for you will. Ballerina. I know a lot of people love that film. Well, you can love that film all you want. It still flopped. In my opinion, for good fucking reason. Because, yeah, John Wick may have been in it, but it wasn't a John Wick movie. So people didn't really, give a fuck enough to go see it like they did John Wick 4. Or 3, or 2. Furiosa, that film didn't do. I know a lot of people praise that film. I don't think that film was all that. And the box office showed it. Now, granted, just because a film flops doesn't mean it's a bad movie. There's a lot of good films that flop as well, to be fair. And to be fair, it seems like a lot of movies are not doing that well. Although, to me, a lot of times it's because those movies are shitty, but there have been good films that have flopped as well. The Day the Earth Blew Up, the Looney Tunes film, that was a good film. It did nothing. So it seems like anything, people just, and I'll get more into what I'll say later, so I'll wait on that. But I'm just naming like the action films of recent years. This year or a year before or whatever. These are the type of action films that are coming out. Where it seems like you have to have this big budget. Just people don't know how to budget things anymore. Granted, the economy is not where it should be and supposed to be, but they go to places to try to be cheaper, but they're still more expensive. But then the expenses are so much that they can't recoup their costs. They can't recoup their budgets. They can't get a damn profit. So it feels like you have more and more movies saying, "Fuck it, we don't go to streaming." Which, I mean, I don't know what the budget's. I mean, sometimes they tell you what the budget is. I'm like, that was really the budget? It doesn't look that way. And once in a while, you have a movie that does decent, like The Beekeeper with Jason Statham. That made about 66 million in the US and made 160 million worldwide. But the other action films of the ilk that I think of, Novocaine, which I didn't mind, that only made 19 million in the US. Love Hurts, which I thought was okay, had its flaws. By T. Hoi Kwan, who was Short Round and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. He was in the Goonies. Cool, he got to star in this. I liked it for him and some of the action. Again, there were flaws in it, in the movie. That only made 15 million in the U.S. Even Statham's other film, A Working Man, only made 37 million in the U.S. I did not see Nobody 2. I didn't get requested it. But guess what? Nobody else fucking saw Nobody 2 as well, because that didn't do well. Batista, like his last couple films, the Killer's Game, whatever it was called, wasn't that great. It didn't do well. Havoc, that went straight to streaming. I didn't see it. I didn't get any requests for it. If someone wants to send that or all these other movies, feel free. If not, no worries. I understand. But a lot of people said they didn't like Havoc. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. The Fall Guy with Ryan Gosling, which I liked, that bombed big time. So I know I'm saying all this stuff for the past 6 minutes. I'm not really getting to a point. I'm just saying all this stuff into the ether for people to kind of cook up in your brains as to this is what we have working with in today's age of the action genre. That even your big superhero films, for a number of reasons, because you had a series of films that were shitty, whether it be Morbius or Kraven the Hunter or Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which I thought sucked. Black Widow I thought sucked. Thor, the last Thor film with the screaming goats and shit, that sucked. And so that perception goes, well, do I really want to see this? And do I really want to see this in the theater? And I'll just wait till home to see it or stream it or finding a different way to watch it or however the case. So it doesn't feel like an event. It's just another superhero film, run-of-the-mill. They'll get more money than the other ones, but not as much as they used to. Because even a superhero film that doesn't do well, technically money-wise, they made a lot more than Novocaine, Love Hurts, and Working Man in terms of box office gross. It's just that they cost too much and the publicity was too much that it's hard to recoup those costs in that fashion. But I'm just saying, if you look at just the total they made, as in, okay, this is how much it says it made in America. Doesn't mean they made a profit because they got cut with the movie theater chains and how much was the publicity and stuff. But okay, what was the budget? How much did Thunderbolts make in America? I'm just curious. Bear with me on this. Once I find the damn thing, bear with me on this. Why is that showing me? I don't know. Just give me the thing over here, man. Okay, right here. It made 190 million domestically. It made 382 million worldwide. Thunderbolts did. But the thing is, it cost supposedly 180 million budget, and that's not including whatever the publicity was. So if you make 380 million, let's say you did half of that, because the other half goes to theater change and other stuff. Let's say you did half of that. I mean, that wouldn't even really cover much of the actual... I mean, that maybe would cover the budget. Because 180 and 180 is, what, 360? But you made three... But no, if you cut that with half... Yeah, with half... 380, 170, 190. Let's say they got, 190 plus 2 is 380 about. So, Yeah, about 190 would be half of that. So let's say for some reason they it cost 180 million budget, 382 million they made. They did half of that. Let's say they had crisp, 190 million. Well, okay, that doesn't include all the production, the publicity, the trailers, the posters, putting it on whatever avenue you gotta buy for time. That still seems like a loss. But they're hoping that streaming and other avenues will pick up that tab. But my whole point going to that is, okay, that seems like a flop or at least disappointing. But if Novocaine made 190 million domestically, or Love Hurts, or Nobody 2, it'd be a huge win for them because they didn't cost nearly as much. Why am I going into that repeatedly, ad nauseum? Because even with superhero films underwhelming at the box office, where the budgets are getting higher, in my opinion, the movies aren't getting better, they're getting worse. There's fatigue, all the other things don't go to all the other reasons you could give. There's still a number of people going to see them that dwarfs the numbers for these other types of action films. Can you imagine a superhero film coming out that only made 19 million total, or 15 million total, or 37 million total in the US total? Can you imagine a superhero movie doing that? I mean, hell, what did Madam Web even make? I'm just curious. It earned 43 million domestically, so that was around that for Madam Web. That was known as a disaster. And that's 43 million in the US was still more than Novocaine 19 million, Love Hurts 15 million, and even A Working Man 37 million in the US. And Madam Web was still more. It was still a huge flop because it cost so much more. But my point is, the mainstream today do not give a fuck about these type of movies. That's what I'm trying to get at with the 12 minutes I've fucking got into it. The mainstream today do not give a fuck about these type of movies that require, quote, new action stars. Because the mainstream don't give a fuck about those type of movies. They don't. I like those kind of movies. Doesn't mean I like every movie that comes out like that, but I like those type of movies because I grew up with them. Commando, Cobra, Aliens, Predator, Predator 2, I Come in Peace, Bloodsport, Hard Target. The list goes on. And I love those kind of films. I adore those kind of films. Now granted, all those films I mentioned are better than the shit I've named. Even ones I don't mind, like Novocaine, Love Hurts. The shit back then is way, way better. But even then, people today don't care about this kind of stuff. If they take a look at it, they go, that's same old, same old. It's tired. It's cliche. I've seen it all done before. Oh, was the one-man army thing? Okay, they're doing martial arts. Okay, they're doing this. They're not as intrigued by that compared to something more grandiose, like a superhero thing, like a comic book thing. Which, yes, even then, their attention is lessening on that. But I think for the mainstream, if you give them a movie like Novocaine, a movie like that, which is your typical action or superhero, it seems that the mainstream is still going to go more towards the superhero than the other thing because it'll be this big spectacle, and they'll watch it with their group of friends, and it's, the superhero comic book, big, cities destroying, whatever, big special effects, grander. Their budget on the screen, even though it looks like shit. That's what people are more geared towards. Whether because the younger people who grew up with the past. I mean, think about it. Iron Man was 2008. Batman Begins 2005. If you think Batman Begins 2005, that's 20 years ago. And then again, Iron Man and The Dark Knight 2008. So that's what, 17 years ago? 17 years. And there were superhero films before that. And it's what I go back to when the 80s and 90s, you had those type of action that is more my cup of tea, more my style, more of what I look forward to. 1985, you had Rambo 2 and Commando and Death Wish 3 and American Ninja. And like that's my kind of year for action films. Even 1988, you had Rambo 3 and Die Hard and Above the Law and Bloodsport. More my kind of stuff. You get to 1990, you had the first Ninja Turtles, which is practical martial arts stuff still. The first Ninja Turtles film. You had Total Recall. You had Die Hard 2. You had The Rookie with Clint Eastwood. You had, going through the 90s, you had Hard Target, Universal Soldier, Out for Justice, Under Siege, Broken Arrow, Speed, True Lies. Again, more my kind of stuff. And not all, but a lot of them I mentioned were hits. Those are what people were into at that time. Because they grow with that 80s stuff. It's what they have familiarity with it. They grow with it. They're into that kind of stuff. That's the stuff they grow with year after year, seeing it with their dad, their brothers, their sisters, their friends. So there's a fondness to that. Some are better than others. And they had action stars. Jean-Claude Van Damme, Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Chuck Norris. Yes, Dolph Lundgren and Steven Seagal. And those are the stars that the movie was sold on them and what they can do, what presses they could do, or their muscles, or what they could do martial arts wise, or whatever the case may be. Now again, I think there were still a lot of good ones when you get into the 90s, but then you had different types of action come into play. They go, okay, that's different. So they see an Independence Day. Oh wow, like the whole city got destroyed, and aliens are coming and blowing up stuff, and the special effects, I still think they're pretty damn good today, but especially at the time they were state of the art. Wow, that was different. And then Twister. You could say what you want about the effects compared to today, but Twister, wow, there's tornadoes and they're destroying all these the stuff. What? And you did more spectacle and stuff. Even the first Mission Impossible, the whole bit with the helicopter and the train at the end. And then you got Titanic and the spectacle of the ship and the way the ship breaks in half and people are sliding down and all that stuff. When you finally get to the ship sinking part. The spectacle. Now it's the spectacle, not the stars. Just, Will Smith, Independence Day, they knew him from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but they weren't going to see it for Will Smith. Hey, I like Jeff Goldblum. They weren't seeing it for Jeff Goldblum. They were seeing it for the spectacle. Twisters, spectacle. Titanic, the spectacle. So now we get into the spectacle field. And that's how the 90s end. The action stars, it's less about them. It's more about the spectacle, the special effects. Those are the stars. The Mummy in 1999. The Matrix. Bullet Time. Then you get to the Lord of the Rings. You get to Spider-Man. Wow, he's swinging and doing all this stuff. X-Men. Oh, you got these superheroes. Do you respect the Blade before that? In 1998. But Spider-Man and X-Men were bigger characters. They made more money. They were considered more in terms of spectacle and special effects. And it wasn't the star that they were selling you on. It was the character, the IP, the spectacle. At that point, the spectacle they were selling it on. Lord of the Rings, these big action scenes. CGI is becoming more of the norm. CGI is replacing bits that we would have done with action. CGI is replacing what we would do with map paintings. What we would do with, okay, we have to find a way to shoot the arrow. Oh, just digital. What? Yeah, just digitize it. Just have the arrow. Well, no, we have the string. No, just have the CGI. Do it that way. Which the CGI stuff I'll talk about later, because there's another topic you wanted me to do, which I'll talk about in that video. And so that's when you get into the notion that, oh, we don't need a star or at least an action star to sell our action movie? What kind of spectacle? What kind of special effects? What kind of grandiose ideas can we do to sell the picture? And that becomes from the late 90s, from like 96 onward, especially to the 2000s. Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, huge franchises. Harry Potter, the world, the magic, all the other stuff, plus there was a popular book. And now what IPs can we get that are popular? Oh, we got Spider-Man, X-Men, we got Harry Potter. Those will sell. Not the action stars or anything, those IPs will sell. And that goes on more and more to the point of, I mean, even you think of the 2010s, what action stars do we have? Okay, maybe Jason Statham. Maybe a bit, The Rock, kinda. Although, like, The Rundown didn't do that well, although I liked the film. Walking Tall did meh. Doom was a huge flop. He tried to get with, G.I. Joe 2. Did that really do that great? I mean, wasn't until Jumanji, Fast and Furious, and even the Fast and Furious, it was, the spectacle of the cars, and then more so when they got bigger with the set pieces, the spectacle of the crazy, what do people remember in Fast 5? Dragging that safe around and battling everywhere, bashing everything while they're driving that big fucking safe around. So maybe Vin Diesel, maybe Jason Statham, maybe The Rock, but not as many as before, yesteryear. Yeah, maybe, Tony Jaa, but then he disappeared and wanted to live with the fucking elephants or whatever he did for years and years until he came back and it was too late. He missed his shot. He does films from time to time, but a whole lot of people don't give a fuck, or they don't know who the fuck Tony Jaa is. These other guys are getting older. Stallone, Expendables, Rambo 4. Rambo 4 didn't do that great. You look at the numbers of Rambo 4, awesome movie I saw in the theater. People can blame Meet the Spartans all they want, and maybe there's some maybe that's partly true, that people saw they paid a ticket for Meet the Spartans but saw Rambo 4. But even if you had those tickets, it wouldn't be like, I don't think it would be a huge difference. It wouldn't be like this, it made $100 million US. No. The Expendables had all the stars and it barely made $100 million. It was cool that it did, but it barely did. And that was with all the stars. That was kind of the last hurrah. And then Expendables sequels got worse and worse and less, not only because they were shittier, but, people were less interested. Okay, it was a gimmick. I like the Expendables, but people saw it for the gimmick of it. And then it dwindles down when the gimmick is less to their liking now, and they're going to something else. What other spectacle can I see next? So what I'm dealing with the lack of action stars is because the mainstream audience is now lived for so long without the need, the want, the desire of an action star for the lead of your action movie. Because it's the IP, it's the spectacle they look more towards. What kind of spectacle does it have? What kind of superpowers does it have? What kind of big, huge things going to happen? They go, whoa! They try to wow you in a trailer. Not so much the action star. Now, once in a while a movie comes out that, wow, like, this is how it could be? It has to be done well, like John Wick. And then that kind of, wow, that kind of action is different and hits that lightning bolt and creates a bit of an effect. Bit of a seismic effect. So other films are like Nobody, and these other films come on and go, wow. But it's only for a brief time, because now there are people that, it's another John Wick type of movie, I'm over that. Now, maybe they do a John Wick 5, they'll make some money, but if other films try to do that, it's just another John Wick thing. Now, what's the next thing? Okay, it's been 15 minutes, I'm done with that, what's the next thing? Because now people, they're so used to, being on their fucking phone and, okay, this is, okay, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, whatever. Okay, I'm doing this now. Okay, let me go back to this. Let me look at some cat videos. And now it's like we've been kind of cradled into this aspect of, I need something instant. I need something instant. Okay, that's too... Attention span is shorter. Attention span is shorter. I need to go over here now. I need to go over here now. And I guess I'm saying a bunch of things because it's not just one thing. It is a bunch of things in this confused swirl of just how the industry has changed throughout the years. It will never be like the 80s again. It will, no matter how, some movie may try and say they are, it will never be like the 80s again. It will never be like the 90s again. I'm sorry to burst that bubble. I'm sorry to burst that bubble. The older action stars, they're aging out. Stallone, he tried to do films where he did easy paychecks like Armor and Alarum, and next will be Aluminum, whatever the fuck, something with an A, Asshole. Horrible fucking films. Was it Back Trace? More like Backwash. Fucking horrible. What he's doing on Tulsa King, I've seen a few episodes. What I've seen I liked. That seems to be the better fit for him. Arnold, I can't remember the last thing he did worth the shit. Maybe that he starred in. Because the Expendables, he was in a bit part. What he starred in was The Last Stand. The first film he made after he got out of politics. That was, 2013? I liked that. That was like the last film he starred in that I liked. The other Terminator sequels, shit. I'm on other shit. Van Damme, Steven Seagal, don't get me started. Dolph Lundgren, Chuck Norris retired. Although I think he did like one or two shitty looking things. There was some film with him on a plane with Vanilla Ice, which I don't even know if that's out yet. And then something where he played like a robot or something. I haven't seen those films. They look fucking horrible. But mostly Chuck Norris is retired. Van Damme and Dolph, they're older, they're slower, they can't do as much because their bodies are broken down. Van Damme, the last couple films he's done, he's used doubles in his fights. And the cameras have to hide the stuff. And the budgets are cheaper and they look shittier. And, Cyborg in 1989 cost, peanuts and looked better than the shit I see. And I'm not saying that as an exaggeration. If I looked at Cyborg, that cost literally peanuts to the dollar, not penis, peanuts, it looks better than the shit I see on streaming. It really does. Because of shooting on film and all the other aspects of it too. And like Dalton, all these guys are just older. They're aging out. They can't do it forever. The Rock. He tried to do films and they were just... First off, I think people are finding out The Rock is kind of full of it. Crock of shit. I went to this fast food place the first time. It's like the third time, but it's the first time. Second or third time, whatever. How many times you don't go here that's the first time? And then his films have sucked. Baywatch, in my opinion, these are my opinion, of course. I thought Baywatch sucked. I thought Skyscraper sucked. Jungle Cruise sucked. Just like the stuff he did for Netflix. Red One and Red Notice, terrible. Just these soulless, like put out of a factory, assembled, just thrown out there, without any impact and just a generic soulless product. And now you tell he's getting away from action. Got off the fucking steroids and all that stuff. He's the Incredible Shrinking Man. the rock, or the pebble now, the shriveled potato. Statham, he'll do a couple films, The Beekeeper too, but I mean, he only has so many years left. And I like The Beekeeper, but Working Man was disappointing. He only has so many years left. So maybe you had some that went direct to video, or I always say direct to video, but direct to streaming. So I'm thinking like people today. Scott Adkins. Hey, I liked a lot of his films. Well, some of his films. One Shot. Sequel was okay. I thought the first one was better. I wouldn't mind them making a third one, but who knows. Accident Man 1 and 2 were good. But even, I'm sure he would tell you, those films, a lot of them don't do well. They don't get a lot of views on streaming, except from people like me and you. Because again, the mainstream are not into that kind of stuff. Because they're more into the spectacle and what is the big, either... And now it's IP. Now it's more, which I'll get to in however many minutes. I'll try not to forget. But there, Scott Adkins. But I'm sure if you ask the normal, if you ask someone about Scott Adkins, they'd be like, who the fuck is that? I bet a lot of people in the mainstream still don't know who the fuck Scott Adkins is. Michael Jai White, they go, oh, that guy from Spawn? Well, he did Blood and Bone, which was good, and although I can't think of the last film he did worth the shit, to be honest. Wasn't the fucking Sudden Death remake, whatever the fuck that shitty movie was. Equal Ways, Cool in the Raid. Raid 2 has a good ending. I think it's too long, and I think there's editing that could be done. Headshot I liked. But then what? Mile 22 with Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch? That film sucked. Triple Threat? Fucking disappointing. Expendables 4? Holy shit. Suck my dick. Fucking horrible. And I think he's doing like another Skyline movie. Skyline 5, 6, whatever the fuck it is. So what I mentioned, like what possible action stars you can have today. Scott Adkins, he's doing, direct-to-video stuff that, honestly, the more he does, seems like the less people watch, because it seems like they get less budgets, less budgets to do less action, or if there's action, it's not as polished, or the special effects are cheaper, and with that digital look, looks more phony. And the budgets may be big compared to yesteryear, but just nowadays with how everything prices are raised, it's super cheap, low budget, and all this crappy green screen, crappy special effects, and it's like, do I really want to watch this? So hopefully you get, 2 or so decent fight scenes. Michael Jai White, I don't even know what the fuck he's doing nowadays. Most people don't. Equal Ways, I already mentioned him. Bren Foster, Life After Fighting was my favorite film of last year. That film doesn't even get a fucking Blu-ray. That's how little studios give a fuck about these type of films. You know what, maybe we'll throw this up for streaming because we'll have some kind of... we need content to feed into people's streaming services so that they can keep paying us money to keep this monthly service. So we need content. So it'll never be enough. They'll never have enough, because enough is never enough, as the stuff says. So give me content. Yeah, make this, and okay, don't make it for too much money, but make this and give us content. Blah, blah, blah. How about some time and money to make it better? No, it doesn't need to be better. It just needs to exist. But yeah, Bren Foster, Life After Fighting, I'm sure you find streaming. But when I say companies don't care, I mean like a physical release. No Blu-ray in the U.S. for Life After Fighting. In fact, there's a fucking thing in Germany or whatever from... What the fuck? Which I can't buy because I'm not allowed, because my bank doesn't allow me to fucking buy stuff overseas. What was it? Retro Gold. Yeah, their Retro Gold site. It's also on the, which on eBay, I think there's a bare bones Blu-ray I may be able to get. But I wanted the media book from Retro Gold. But I am not, and I think there's some left, but I can't buy it. I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed to buy it. Because my bank doesn't allow me to buy shit overseas. Although I heard from a friend that even if you do, the shipping is atrocious, so it's not even worth to fucking get anyway. They say the shipping is this much. I'm like, what? Bullshit. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. But in the U.S., you can't get that film on Blu-ray. In the U.S., that is. That you have to maybe go on eBay and buy some foreign bare bones Blu-ray. But not in the U.S., no. Because then studios think, and rightfully so, that a lot of people don't give a fuck about those kind of movies, especially in the U.S. But then you have films like Novocaine, Love Her, they're not the greatest movies ever, but, people barely even gave it a chance. 19 million, 15 million. People, they weren't interested in seeing that type of stuff. Brent Foster, I think the only thing he's done since, he was in a couple episodes of a TV show. That's it. Or they put these fucking 80-pound skinny-ass women like G20, shitty version of Air Force One, or Cleaner, which I haven't seen but look like shit. I think there's Ray Skywalker, where the fuck Daisy Ridley's in it. So we'll get these 80-pound... Oh, the Cliffhanger reboot. Probably starring another 80-pound woman who, if you sneeze, she flies away. Tom Cruise, he's pretty much ready to quit. Hell, the last Mission Impossible film he didn't even do well. And the previous one before that didn't do well. Gerard Butler? No. What, Den of Thieves 2? Gives a fuck. No one gives a fuck about Den of Thieves 2. And what Greenland 2? Didn't give a fuck about the first Greenland. I mean, wasn't the worst thing I ever saw, to be fair. I don't think I ranted on it, to be fair. But hell, I mean, it got worse reviews, but I liked Geostorm more. It might have been dumber, but it was more fun. I like Geostorm more than Greenland, but that's me. Batista, his film, Killer's Game, whatever, bombed and wasn't that great. So you see the lack of new action stars, because a lot of people don't really want to become an action star because they feel there's not a market for it. Is there a strong market to become an action star and do a fight scene, do martial arts? Where's the market for it nowadays? If you do a movie like that, you're lucky you'll get a streaming or on fucking Tubi or something. If you're someone like Dennis Quaid's son that gets Novocaine, you may be down in a theater like Novocaine did, and it was a Jack Quaid, and it didn't do much of anything. T. Hort Kwan got his chance to star, didn't do anything. To be fair, these films, again, were not the greatest films. Novocaine, I like both of them. So you have stars that's been in it for a while, but they pick pretty bad projects like Expendables 4 or Mile 22 for equal ways. Or they get involved with films that have less and less budget, so you can barely do, but they need to work and they need the money. Just like, Bruce Willis needed the money because of what was going on, so he did all those series of films where he was in it for like 5 to 7 minutes. And he needed an earpiece to get through the dialogue. These type of films are just not what the mainstream are looking for. This is not what the mainstream wants. And the only gem you'll get is something like Life After Fighting that came out of nowhere And so one of you guys, you told me about it. I'm like, whoa. And then I got a request. I saw it. I went, whoa, this is really good. Holy shit, Life After Fighting was better than any other action film I saw this year. Especially, like, Life After Fighting, to me, was a much better action film for me than Superman, Fantastic Four, or Thunderbolts. But it's based on my kind of action. If Life After Fighting got the promotion, got in the theaters, it would not have made any money. Wouldn't make shit. Because, again, unless it's part of a gimmick fad, Barbenheimer or something like that, to fit in with the crowd, the mainstream's not going to give a fuck. Unless it's a gimmick. Or the IP nowadays. Because that's what studios now want to go to more. Because they're hoping the IP will save their asses when they work with the movie theaters. They're hoping the IP will be it. That's why you saw Jurassic Park 7. What the fuck? Jurassic World with the Scarlett Johansson. Which I think did make money. That's why next year you got another The Mummy. A reboot, I guess, of The Mummy. Mortal Kombat 2. A He-Man movie. Toy Story 5. A Cliffhanger reboot. A new Street Fighter. A new Resident Evil by the guy who made that shitty Weapons movie. Meet the Parents 4. Scream 7. A new Super Mario movie. The IPs now are the things people want to, either nostalgia back to the day or some property, some IP that hopefully get people's attention, and please come see this in the theater. And again, you look at the mainstream, like the young people today, the young people, if they look at a film like Cobra, they laugh at it. I'm not saying every young person does. I'm not saying that. There's a lot of young people that laugh at Cobra, Commando. I mean, laugh as in, this is so stupid. Fuck this, Where's the new Avengers movie? They're dismissive. Is what I mean by laugh. They laugh at it. They're dismissive of it. Bloodsport is so cheesy. That Cliffhanger movie, that's so goofy and cheesy. My God, John Lithgow is so over the top, man. He's so cheesy. Cheesy, goofy, silly. Like, these are the words they use to dismiss it. But again, a guy flying around in armor isn't silly. This is so silly and stupid. Let me go watch Doctor Strange now. Let's do some more sorcery. And I like the first Doctor Strange. And I like the first Iron Man. Iron Man 2 is there. But, because I've seen way worse. I've seen way better. So it's all those things combined. It's just a different culture. It's a different way of I was going to say filmmaking, but do you think people nowadays, directors, know how to make a fucking action film, let alone to get an action star? These folks don't know how to choreograph an action scene, except maybe the guys who do the I forget their name, who did Day Shift and the 3711. I forget what they. Let me check real quick. I'll get the name real quick. 8711. But even their films haven't done well. Day Shift, I guess disappointed because there's no talks of a sequel. Well, I don't know. Here it says they've only done Day Shift, John Wick 4, and then Ballerina. And maybe Atomic Blonde. I could have sworn they did more. But other than people like that, and even then, as much as I praise those movies, Well, not John Wick 4, but John Wick 3, Day Shift, I still say, as much as I praise them, are they perfect? Even they're not perfect. CGI blood. No squibs. CGI blood this. CGI, well, why does it need to be CGI blood? Why can't it be practical squibs? Why do you need that to be CGI enhanced? Because it's, sorry. Because it's cheaper. Because it's easier. Because it's, more safe. Well, I mean, you can make squibs more safe too, if you know what the fuck you're doing. So I don't know, to me, the lack of new action stars, because it's the lack of that kind of action that requires action stars. I'm not saying there's none. You could search and find stuff out there. Extraction 1 and 2 I liked with Chris Hemsworth. Would I call him an action star? Not really. He's been in action films, but he's also was in Ghostbusters 2016 and that vacation movie where he showed his dick through his fucking shorts or whatever, and Men in Black International, all this other stupid shit. But the youngs today, they don't give a fuck about that kind of fucking action. They don't. People that would mock Stallone and mock Arnold, before he was screw your freedom and all this other shit. They were mock Van Damme. They were mock that stuff. I'll mock Seagal because he's a fucking fat ass, but they mock that stuff. And again, they don't know who the fuck Scott Adkins is. And again, even Scott Adkins, he's getting older. He's not getting younger. And for them, because it's drying up and because there's less and less people that know how to make that kind of action, that know how that action is, how to be showcased correctly. If they try to do action, you get shit like G20 and other bullshit. People don't know what the fuck they're doing. Once in a while, you have someone out there that will come up with a nice surprise, which probably won't do well. There'll be that more, group of people like me who are into that kind of stuff. And even then, I think there's less and less people that know how to do that correctly, because you don't have your John McTiernans and his prime Rennie Harlan, John, and even these people I mentioned, some of them are still around, but that's the sad thing. Even they don't know. If John Woo himself doesn't even know how to do an action film nowadays, with that stupid remake of The Killer, even your fucking Macy's don't know how to do your fucking action. Robert Rodriguez, who did Desperado, what the fuck were you thinking doing that shitty Ben Affleck film, Hypnotic? What the fuck was that movie about? What the fuck was the John Woo, The Killer remake? What the fuck was that about? Rennie Harlan? Who gives a shit about The Strangers? You're doing 3 goddamn movies to a film people barely gave a fuck about. People barely gave a fuck about The Strangers. I don't hear people talk about, The Strangers. And then you're just making a trilogy that no one gave a shit, no one wanted? And I think he's doing like another shark film. Okay. John McTiernan, I mean, he hasn't done anything in a while. Richard Donner passed away. I'm thinking of like action directors. The people who made those films back in the day, they don't do that stuff nowadays. Or they passed away, or they moved on to other stuff. Because they feel that the market isn't wanting and desiring that anymore. And so you look, if the market isn't desiring that anymore, then why the fuck would anyone try to be an action star nowadays? Or if they try to and you don't buy it. I don't buy fucking some of these fucking people who are 80 pounds trying to do a goddamn thing. Which is funny, then either no one watches their shit or it comes out and flops. Anyway, so there you go. They always look at what's a hit. Studios look at what's hit, what's successful. Piggyback on that. Rambo First Blood Part 2. People don't realize how successful that fucking film was in 1985. What do you see? A shitload of Rambo ripoffs after that. Shitload. Bloodsport. People forget how much of a worldwide phenomenon Bloodsport was. What do you see for years? Even the direct-to-video, a shitload of Bloodsport type of movies. Or Tip Boxer type of movies. Just Tip Boxer was a hit too. After Bloodsport and Tip Boxer, you would not believe how many fucking films copied those two films. Again and again and again. Desert Tip Boxer, shit like that. So for a certain time, you had people copying John Wick. And now that's dried off. That died off. And you see some of these films flopping because people are now tired of that. It had a spark. And again, while some of those films I actually do like, the mainstream, it was a spark, and then up and over here again. So yeah, the action genre, it's hard to say it's dead because there'll always be a glimmer. Wow, that's like life. I did Life After Fighting last year. It'll be something that comes out of nowhere. I don't have the DVD here, but there was a film called Broken Fist, aka Broken Path. Johnny Jan Bosch back in the day. Cool action film. There was Drive with Mark Dacascos, 1997. Stuff that's under the radar. That'll make you perk up and go, ooh, okay. Action films coming out, I can't tell you one I look forward to. I can't. Mortal Kombat 2? No. The Cliffhanger reboot? Remake? No. Which again, coming out next year. Street Fighter with what, Cody Rhodes is fucking Guile or whatever the fuck? No. So, take that for you, Will. Shit, I didn't realize I'd go 52 minutes, but I guess I was passionate about it. Probably was a big rant. So thanks for watching, take care, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye for now.